Hi and welcome to Thriver TV, the place to break free from narcissistic abuse with quantum tools and understandings. And this week's video it relates to my blog topic last week, which was how to survive a breakup with a narcissist, part 1. And it was in relation to a lady that wrote in and she said, what is it about when we position the narcissist as our God? And I said to her, I replied on the blog and I said, well, look, I really want to do a video on that one day. And I really just decided that that day is now. So thank you for giving me that suggestion because it's such a really, really good one. It's a great topic and it's totally worthy of doing a video on because it's a really common thing that happens. And the narcissist becomes so front and center in our life that we can literally feel like we can't survive or even exist without them. And for some people it might feel like you need permission from the narcissist to breathe, like the narcissist is like monitoring your every move, and if you make a wrong move then there's going to be hell to pay. And you find that you're constantly monitoring your words and your actions and your choices to hopefully not set the narcissist off. And of course, all of that is known as walking on broken glass. And it can even be more dire for people who have intense, fragile inner identities, who are hooked on narcissists, who literally feel like without the narcissist that they can't survive. And they feel like they just can't do life anymore if they were to lose the narcissist. And if this is how you feel, my heart goes out to you because once upon a time I totally felt like that too, 100%. So how does this happen? How do we position an abuser, someone who is sucking us empty and destroying our life, whilst of course purporting that they love us and offering us up wonderful things from time to time, yet are ultimately and unmistakably destroying us? How do we position this person as our God? How do we hand over all our power and grant so much of it to this person? Okay, so as I usually do, I want to go quantum with you on this, and going quantum is a great solution because when things emotionally and mentally don't make logical sense, we need to look for deeper reasons as to why we feel the way we do, why things are happening the way they do. And we need to go within our inner beings. We need to investigate what the purpose of life is really about, and start to orientate ourselves in the understanding of the interconnectedness of ourselves, life and others, and how this whole thing is always about soul and personal growth and the evolution of humanity, which all needs to come from within, one person at a time, from being self-actualized, one person at a time. And we need to pull down the illusions of thinking that going deeper is new age woohoo, and that emotions are to be hidden, and life is simply about surviving, getting stuff, and fulfilling certain society standards, hoping that's going to fulfill us, and then putting on a front and making out everything is okay when these things don't. Quantum understandings take a microscope into our inner landscape and the meaning of life, and why things unfold the way they do, and what is the deeper, wider purpose of it all, and ultimately what is everybody's goal here on this planet. I'm going to get to the point soon. I just want to lay this foundation because this is really vital about our topic, and you're going to understand why, I promise you. So just stay with me. So our goal is not to get stuff or approval, definitely not. It's to be whole and to become interconnected with self, life and others in ways that inspire, promote and support our releasing of fear and pain in order to become our organic, coded state of love. And then being free to engage in our deepest soul missions and desires, which contributes to the growth of self and collective consciousness that benefits the whole. And these are actually the only things that are going to truly gratify you. because no one on their deathbed talks about how many condominiums they owned, how many people they shagged, or the expensive jewels that they wore, and if they did, there's something severely missing there. People who did not live their life aligned and self-actualized fear death, and they have great trouble accepting it when it's time to go. So what has all this got to do with us positioning a narcissist as our God? Okay, I'm going to get right onto it. Plenty. Because when we are not aligned, when we're not in the ecological oneness, flow, peace, wholeness, and solidness with self first, and if we've not learnt to self-partner, meaning we've got internal wounds and we're disowning them, and we're then attached to outer lives in numerous ways as attempts to self-medicate to escape our pain and our fear and our anxiety and our depression, then we are not in the fold, in inverted commas. We're actually out in the cold instead of being in the fold, because separation from self is where it all begins. Everything comes from there. And as a result, we're separated from a higher power. When we're living from a frequency of separation from self, we automatically have post-traumatic stress disorder. And I mean this literally. We have an inner being in fear, suffering, anxiety, and depression, which is flip sides of the same coin. And both of those things are inevitable states when we have unhealed inner trauma. Despite requiring us, we are the only adult in our lives who can go within to heal, love, and bring these wounds back to health. No one else is coming. And when we're stuck in internal trauma that we're not going inwards to meet and heal, we've lost connection to self. We've lost connection to love. We've lost connection to source, God, life force, whatever your version of a higher power is. And even if you don't believe in a higher power as such, you may imagine in quantum terms your higher self, the wiser, organically coded, solid and whole part of yourself, the part of you who knows cellularly how to be and what to do and how to interconnect with life and others, and how to co-generate health, happiness, wholeness, love and success, which I promise you does not have to be learned and does not even have had to have been modeled for you. And even this part knows how to heal. Your higher self knows how to heal the supposed unhealable. And this part of you already exists inside you, even if logically you have no idea how to do anything or how to even get there. So this part of you, when you become unwounded, organically rises within and expresses itself as you, through you, as your true self. I'm going to say that again because this is everything. This is probably the most important sentence I could ever tell you. This part of you, when you become unwounded, organically rises within and expresses itself as you, through you, as your true self. Just let that settle into yourself cellularly, because it is a profound quantum truth. And if you are not self-partnered, you have no access to this part of yourself. So self-partnering is the first and most vital step of your entire life. If you don't love you and accept you enough to meet yourself at an inner level, and you are not a source of love, approval, security and survival to yourself, which means co-partnered with self and a higher power, then you are not whole. And when we are not whole, we want to be whole, because instinctively we know that if we were, that the pain and the struggle would end. And if we're not generating self-partnering and partnering with a higher power authentically from the inside out, then we're empty and wounded, and this is the really important part. Then we seek false substitutes for our salvation, which means we're choosing and clinging to things and people from a place of fear, anxiety, emptiness, dependency, and need. And we may not have realized, because it's our normal, we may have always been living like that. That was certainly the case for me. Rather than being, I am already whole, trying this on, and if it doesn't turn out as healthy for me, then I'm going to move on. Full, I'm already full, and I'm going to explore and generate with other options. There is a massive difference to being needy, anxious, and reliant, and being full. So the first is always the byproduct of not being self-partnered, and the second is the freedom and the power of being self-partnered. So we can turn lots of things into gods, sources for ourselves, and attach to them in unhealthy ways as a false higher power, meaning we believe these things are necessary for our identity and even our existence, meaning these things feel to us like they're essential for us to have any hope of love, approval, survival, or security. Things such as our job or our home, and of course, other people. Narcissists are the ultimate expression of a false source, and they fit in perfectly with our soul's growth and deepest desires, which I talked about at the start of this video, which is to free us into being highly actualized, inspired, loving, creative beings attached to and generating our highest aspirations. And because of this, deeply coded within our DNA is a default that screams wrong town when we're attached to false substitutes. So imagine the man who knows his job is soulless and it's even in contrary to his values. He suffers headaches at work every day, yet he persists because he believes there is no other option. Imagine the woman who married her husband for security. She didn't marry him for love, she married him for security. And then he lost all of his money in the stock market. Life has a way of evicting us out of false sources, otherwise known as false gods. Our soul, which is working in deeply connected ways with all of life in our experience at the quantum level, grants us all sorts of signals and messages urging us to give up our attachment to false sources so that we can come home to our truth, our true power, and our birthright, which is to be self-partnered and self-actualized and generating directly with self, our higher power, life, and others, living and integrated in powered life, rather than one that disintegrates with us clinging on like a drowning rat at the edge of a ship going down. So how do we know when something or someone is a false source? It's really actually quite simple. Our emotions scream at us in agony. We're in fear and pain. We make excuses. Things get worse and worse and worse. Life and our soul is evicting us. That is why it gets worse. Because we are the interconnectedness of all that is, and we're not which is not supportive. We're interconnected to all of that, and it is not supportive of anything other than what is authentic and real. Narcissists are the zenith. They're the most profound level of false gods. And this is where our soul, our higher self, and life says, no more, you can't go on like this. When narcissists have become our God, we've handed them our power. That's what we've done. What are the ingredients necessary to hand power away, leading to the demise of life force, love, wholeness, and literally our inner being? This is the answer: not being self-partnered, being wounded, being prone to self-avoid and self-abandon and seek outer substitutes in times of anxiety or depression. And then along comes the narcissist, the greatest false source of all time, promising to be your lover, healer, your best friend, your most wonderful, successful business partner, your one and only, the greatest light and love in your life, and ultimately your God. And he's not any of these things. Instead, he or she is going to slam your wounds directly. All of your parts within that have been stuck in fear and pain that you have not liberated with your own love and healing yet. The parts that you have disowned, ultimately for the soul-loving purpose of helping you wake up. Go to these parts and heal them so that you can become a whole and a self-actualized self. And as the wounding gets worse and worse with the narcissist, if we're not doing this, if we're not turning inwards, we cling harder. We're hanging on to the edge of the boat, being pummeled by waves. We're drowning, exhausted, freezing, and barely able to breathe. And when we believe the narcissist is our salvation, our one and only, our God, we are in dire danger of clinging on all the way to our extinction. And if we let go of the boat, if the narcissist has become our God, we literally feel like we're going to be gobbled up by the waves and die. Yet if we let go with the full intention to turn inwards and heal the wounds that the narcissist is triggering, as well as all the ways we've not as yet been self-partnered, if we realize that what has been playing out with the narcissist is the biggest wake-up call, evolution and experience and path to our true self-actualization, then the miracle starts to appear. We discover there is a lifeboat waiting with a hot cup of soup and a warm blanket on board. And we wonder why on earth we didn't choose this sooner. And on the Thriver path, we discover there is a life after. In fact, the most incredible life we could have ever imagined. And we could never have got to it if it wasn't for the trip that we'd been on. That's how big all of this is. And I totally understand that if you came from a family of origin of narcissists, you think, well, you know, what was this all about? It is still all about soul evolution. There are collective wounds, there are generational wounds. And if we're born into a narcissistic family, all of our families, for all of us that have ended up like this, have been dysfunctional on some level. That's why we've had the generational wounds and we've had the stuff to unravel and heal. If you were born into it, of course, as a child, you had no choice. Even as a wounded child in an adult's body, you have no choice. But as an adult, we do have a choice. And it's exactly the same healing premise. To make it our biggest mission, to be self-partnered, to meet ourselves and our wounds, to heal and up-level and set ourselves free so that we become source flowing through us as a true self. Then we are totally connected in wholesome ways to our higher power. And we're not like an injured gazelle at the edge of the pack that can be picked off by a predator. It's totally what it's all about. So I hope I know that was kind of like pretty deep and big, and you might need to watch this and listen to it a few times, but that's what really came through in this transmission that needed to be said. And you know, I really look forward to having a deep conversation with you about this on the blog. And you can go to blog.melanietoniaevans.com. Come over and let's have a really rich meaning conversation about this. So until the next episode, keep healing, keep smiling, and keep thriving, because there is nothing else to do. Lots of love. Bye-bye.